Words of encouragement. As I thought about the message I should bring tonight, that's what I kept coming back to. Words of encouragement. How strange, though, that I would be in this position. Those of you who know me, and I see some smiles, know that I'm a little introspective, a little emotional, and I keep a lot to myself. I'm certainly not a glass half full kind of guy. Usually I wonder if there's a glass at all. In fact, if I'm to be completely honest, for a long time, I viewed the holidays as another chore to be endured. For years, my wife has taken care of the outside decorations, bless her soul. But that still left me the job of assembling the artificial tree indoors. You know, the kind with the pre-lit strands of light so that if one bulb isn't working, the whole strand doesn't work. You know how that usually goes. And there's the special cleaning and the cooking and the gift buying and the wrapping. We have family out of town, so we always have to make sure we get the right gifts in the right place. And then when we go out of town, we have to try to see everybody in 2 days, make sure we got all the gifts distributed. Now, don't get me wrong, that's nice. Seeing the kid's face on Christmas Day, it's priceless, right? And seeing family and friends, it's always nice. But we're so tired from all these preparations. Do you really enjoy it as much as you could? And of course, someone's always sick at the holidays, so you may not want to go to their house, or maybe you're the one that's sick and you have to deal with that. And then there's the weather that doesn't cooperate and messes up your plans, and you take time off from work, but of course all you can think about is when you go back. What a nightmare. It's all going to be there, and what's gone wrong since you've been gone? And I mean, really, Merry Christmas. Words of encouragement from me. Well, isn't this embarrassing? How someone so active in this church could miss the meaning of Christmas. How foolish am I? As Allison read, there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. This passage from Ecclesiastes was always my mother's favorite. All the Bibles in the house had a bookmark on Ecclesiastes 3. It's been 6 years since she passed away. Sometimes that seems like a long time ago, and sometimes it seems like it was yesterday. She was 67. She wasn't ill. She wasn't in an accident. She just died. Some people have told me that's the way I want to go. She didn't linger. There was no suffering, and there was no pain. So I guess there's some truth to that. But for me, the suddenness and the unexpected nature of it all has left our time unfinished. I remember her telling me once about starting a Blue Christmas service in her church. I didn't pay a lot of attention at the time. Seemed like a strange idea to me, really. But after her sudden death, those first few church services after that, they were almost unbearable. The very first Sunday, her home church dedicated the singing of On Eagle's Wings in her memory because it was her favorite. He will raise you up on eagle's wings. He will hold you in the palm of his hand. There wasn't a lot of singing in our pew. My first service back here at Central, we happened to sing, "Be Still My Soul." Be still, my soul. The Lord is on your side. Bear patiently the cross of grief or pain. Leave to your God to order and provide. In every change, God faithful will remain. But I think it was during the Christmas Eve services that first year that I started to understand this idea of a Blue Christmas service. To gather with friends who might also be hurting, whatever the reason, of not being the only one. To respect that grief. And the idea of trying to find hope and joy and promise of the season in a quiet and more intimate way. So in many ways, we're here tonight because of my mom. Now, I don't know what brings you here tonight. Some of you are hurting or know someone who is. Or maybe you're here to give comfort to those who are hurting. Maybe a loved one has passed away recently. Financial issues, job issues, issues of addiction. The foreign tensions that create anxiety for those who serve our country. In a season that emphasizes family, people are alone. In the midst of this season of great merriment, for some, it's a time to hurt. Well, let me tell you, this can also be a time for hope. In 1954, author E.B. White said, "To perceive Christmas through its wrapping becomes more difficult with every year." But that's exactly what we must do if we're to find the hope of the season. Perceive Christmas through its wrapping. Not about the lights, the tinsel, the gifts, the family gatherings, even. Those are the traditions of Christmas, but they don't really have a lot to do with the birth of Jesus. Christmas is about God's promise to a people who had walked in the darkness of grief and despair. Generations of faithful people who had been waiting for a Messiah. People like many of us here tonight, scared, lonely, disappointed, hurting. They lived under the tyranny of Rome. Folks like Mary and Joseph, finding any way they could to scrap out a living, often doing work that no one grew up aspiring to do. They paid burdensome taxes, and they were subject to arbitrary laws, like the census that Luke talks about in his gospel. The people who longed for the Messiah had very little left to lose. It's to those people and to all of us that Jesus came. Now, in that time, I bet there was some surprise and disappointed about this Messiah. I mean, he wasn't a soldier who came in and swooped all of their troubles away from the oppressive Romans, was he? He was a peasant child. Are we sometimes disappointed about this Messiah even today? Do we wish Jesus would take away the pain? Or think that if we have enough faith, we'll be immune from hurt and uncertainty. That's not the promise of this Messiah. Jesus doesn't promise to shield us from pain. He promises to walk with us in it. He promises that there is life and light beyond our current circumstances. He promises there is a time to weep and a time to laugh. There may be a time to mourn, but there will be a time to dance. Even the most fervent faith won't erase life's struggles and pain. But it can give you strength. Well, sometimes that strength gets you out of bed in the morning. And maybe it gets one foot in front of the other. But it's a start. The thrill of hope. A weary world rejoices. For yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. He comes, born to give us second birth. And finally, God gives us each other to lean on through the hard times, to share a hug, or even just a smile. To know that we're not alone. In a few moments, we'll be lighting candles and praying for healing from the pains that may be keeping us from seeing the hope of Christmas this year. I invite you to feel the Spirit stir in this place, as it surely will. Allow the power of our prayer to unite us. Following that, we'll invite you to come forward and lay a ribbon, the blue ribbon that's found in your bulletin, on the altar. Whatever burden you bring tonight, whatever concerns you have for yourself, for loved ones who may be suffering, whatever the darkness, let this act symbolize turning that burden over to God, that he might surround you with his tender care and allow a new healing to begin tonight in you. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. My family has a new tradition. The day after Thanksgiving, we start to put up the outside decorations together. And yes, the preparations are still hectic. But they have new purpose. And there's energy in that purpose. And through this new tradition of Blue Christmas, I'm finding my way to finish that time with my mother. So you see, it is indeed a time for hope. May it be so for all of you this season.